Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1540 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. The Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team, the best baseball in the city outside the Dome. I'm going to be at Christie Pitts this coming Saturday. That's tomorrow, if you're listening right away, August 24th. I will be at Christie Pitts because there's a game tomorrow night. It's a playoff game, and happy hour starts at 6 o'clock. You get the Maple Leafs beer for $3.50. You get hot dogs for $3. I'm bringing my kids. There'll be prizes. There'll be giveaways. It's going to be a great time. Fill the Hill, Saturday night for Toronto Maple Leafs playoff action. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making his Toronto Mic'd debut is the man they call Clutch, Dan Giancola. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for making the trek. You came a long way to be here, right? How was the commute? Are you ready to strangle me?
No, you know what? It was actually good. There was a little congestion right around the Burlington Skyway. Other than that, you know, we made good time.
Well, you said Burlington, so shout out to the Spoons. That's what we say when we hear a reference to Burlington. What a pleasure it is to meet you. A lot of touch points in the story that I want to collect here. You wrote a book.
I did.
I can't even read a book, but you wrote one.
Right.
Be that one. Why does it have to be someone else? Why not me? Yeah, I actually talked to the guy who kind of helped edit it. People know, who helped you with this book?
Perry Lefko, man.
Okay, we got to shout out Perry Lefko. Do you know when Perry Lefko hears the song The Promise by When in Rome, he openly weeps. He can't help himself. If you ever want to make Perry Lefko cry.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm giving you a pro tip here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He'll just start crying. He can't help it. Just play When in Rome's The Promise.
I wish I would have known that, man. We were together so much when we were doing this book, and I was always weeping when I was writing it. So that's
right.
A little bit of a bonus for me.
Well, now you know next time you see Perry Lefko. So, but Perry tells me you wrote this book. Like sometimes you get a ghost, someone who helps you, and they do all the heavy lifting. Yeah. That might have been the case with Nick Kiprios. I won't say for sure, but I heard you actually legitimately you wrote this book. Be that one.
He's so nice when he says that, and he says to me that I wrote like 90% of it, and he did 10% of it, and that means so much to me because I think at the opening creds here you said that you really don't read either, and I don't read, and I can honestly say to you I've read one book front to back in my entire life.
Is that right?
Honest to God, I'm not lying to you.
What book?
Shane.
That's the movie, right? With
I think so. It's a country kind of thing.
That was a very famous movie with John Wayne.
Yeah, that is the only book I read front to back. So for Perry to say that I did that means a lot to me.
Well, can we just not bury the lead here and just explore that just for a moment here?
Sure.
That's unusual for someone who's literate. You're literate.
Yeah.
Just point.
Yeah.
Like it is, and you're, I don't know how old you are now. You're younger
54.
You're not younger than me.
55.
You just look younger than me. Okay, Dan, come on. You have only read one book.
One book.
Cover to cover.
Honest to God.
Why is that? Like, how can that be? That's
I'm just not a reader. I'm just, honestly,
clearly.
I enjoy listening to, to music. I look, if I had this book like I have in front of me right now, the first thing I would go to, I probably would read the back of the book just to kind of find the gist of it. And then I go to the pictures and just kind of, go from there. But is it okay if I give this to you now?
Of course.
So,
are you kidding me? Thank you.
No, thank you.
Be that one. Why does it have to be someone else? Why not me? This is Dan Giancola with Perry Lefko. Good thing your font is much bigger, bolder. Perry Lefko thinner, smaller. That's the way it should be. Oh, Pinball wrote the foreword.
Yes, he did.
He's the one who calls you Clutch, right?
He's the one that called me Clutch. We started in training camp in 1999.
So, again, I'm going to play like a Quentin Tarantino movie. So we're going to go back, but just to tease, you start off in the diner scene and then you got to come back. Why are they dressed like that? But you played for the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah. 1999, went to training camp with him after 131 free agent camps.
Okay, so that's like a teaser because we're going to explore that because, I read your book. I had a PDF version. Now that I have a real version, so thank you very much. I'll try to hold it up for the photo. I want people to be inspired by your story here and to go purchase this book, Be That One. Why does it have to be someone else? Why not me? By Dan Giancola, former Toronto Argonaut. Okay, and we're gonna get there, but I want to go back because my youngest son, so I got 4 kids, but number 3, soccer fanatic.
Okay.
Just wants to play. The last, I guess, he's trying out for this competitive team, so we did tryouts on Tuesday, Thursday. He had a house league game in Hyde Park on Wednesday.
Right.
Like, I'm forever getting him to and from different soccer pitches. He just wants to live and breathe soccer.
Right.
Was that you as a young man?
Yeah, man, I was born with a soccer ball on my foot. That was my first love. My dad, we used to always tell this story. I was very lazy baby. Like, it took me forever to learn how to walk. And one day, a little red ball rolled across the room. And apparently I got up and I chased it and started kicking it. And ever since that point, I never stopped.
You were destined to be, I was reading some of the highlights in the book here, but you played pretty competitively.
I did, man. As soccer, I excelled.
Soccer,
I excelled at that game. I loved it, man. Every waking moment. We used to live down the street from Seagrove Soccer Field in Thorold, and
where is that, by the way? Is that near Niagara Falls?
It's in Thorold's in between Niagara Falls and St. Catharines.
Okay,
it's kind of like right there in between, little blip.
Is that whereabouts you live now?
No, I live in Niagara Falls now. We moved the year I signed with the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, well, see, more teasers because you signed with the Buffalo Bills. We'll get to that. That's after the Argonauts stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
I even have. Listen, I love letting people know that we're going to tell a story here, and it's a great story. Now, just to give it some context, you're representing Canada in national under-16 tournaments.
Yeah,
like, you were all about competitive soccer.
I was. I was 14 years old, and I got the phone call from my. From one of my regional coaches, and he was at Brock University. He was one of the head coaches there, Bill Miller. And all he did, he just called me, and my dad picked up the phone, and he was telling my dad the story. And my dad said, I think it would mean more to him if you said it, you told him. And at the age of 14, I was going out for under 16 national team and went out to Sheridan College, and that's where it all started. Now,
as we weave this story, because we got to get you into football here, maybe can you tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your father when you're in these under 16 tournaments representing Canada in competitive soccer?
We had a fantastic relationship, man. You know, it was your typical father-son, just like, you know, you're taking your sons to where they go. My dad did the exact same thing. You know, I was also playing hockey too, competitively, right? So I had a lot going on as youth. And keep in mind, I still have 2 other brothers, Tino and Joe, right? So, you know, they were always busy, my mom and dad.
Okay, great. Now, what happens? You're a competitive soccer guy, but then you shift your focus to football. Like, basically, how does that happen? You just played it in high school and dug it? Like, how did that happen?
You know, soccer came to the conclusion because of politics, and that's just straight up.
Well, can you give me more politics? Like, what does that mean?
So, for example, I went from the national team, came back home, 17 years old, played in Niagara Falls. In the NSL league. They were about 18 years old. I think it was under 18. And because I came from the Canadian team, the expectations were so high. And if I wasn't scoring 2 or 3 goals a game, I got benched.
Wow.
And it was like ridiculous. And next thing you know, halfway through, like you're losing the love of the game, you know, and then, you know, you get the opportunity to play, and then some kid comes off the streets and his dad's got money. He owned a Tim Hortons.
That's the political.
Yes.
Okay.
He came in, I think he put forward like $3,500 for the team for traveling and all that. And he played my position, and therefore I was null and void.
I'm hoping my third born is not as good as you were, because I'm trying to avoid this, like this whole idea of getting the playing time, right?
Yeah.
And the political aspects of that. Like, I just don't have an appetite for this.
Yeah. It's very, It's very heartbreaking, especially when you have the ability to play. And because somebody's, father, mother, whatever the situation is, has money, that, unfortunately they take precedence over you. So it's not necessarily the talent. It's more of about the money.
Well, Dan, on this program, we call that bullshit.
I agree.
That's bullshit.
100%.
Okay. So you shift your focus to football.
Grade 9, man. Grade 9, grade 10, actually. One of my best friends came up to me and said to me, he says, man, we're looking for a kicker for the junior team. And I said to him, man, there's no chance in hell my dad's going to let me. There's no chance. I was with the national team at that point, right? So just come out. Anyway, long story short, I go out in the field with the junior team. And back when I was playing, the junior and senior team, they shared. So half of the team was one side, juniors, the other side was senior. So I run out there with a rubber football. He handed me 2 tees, a black tee and an orange tee. So the orange tee, if anybody knows anything about kicking, is the kickoff tee. Next thing you know, he hands me the tees, and I said, well, what the hell do I do with this? And he said to me, we put it down, and then I put the ball on it. And I said, okay. So not only did we pick the wrong tee, we turned it upside down facing the wrong way with the spikes in the ground.
Right.
So he puts the ball down, and he goes, hike.
Right.
And I look at him, I go, what the hell are you saying? What's hike? He says, well, that's when you kick the ball. I said, he goes, you really know nothing about this, do you? And I laughed, and I said, no, man. So anyway, I lined up about 6 yards back, and we were about 40 yards out, and I hammer this kick.
Yeah.
And this kick goes nowhere near, so it doesn't make it through the uprights, but this thing travels another 20 yards through the end zone. So from
the depth.
Yeah, well, it definitely did. Next thing I know, I hear the coach for the senior team, and I didn't know who he was at first. And he screams over, he goes, hey, Kumba, in Italian. All it is just an enduring, I like you.
So that's what I can use that term?
Absolutely, you totally can. You say Kumba.
Kumba.
So next thing you know, I look at him, and I started walking over. He goes, no, Kumba, kick another one, move back. I walk back over to my buddy Bill, and I said, who the hell's that? And he goes, that's a senior coach.
Wow.
And I said,
and you're grade 9.
Right, I'm a grade, yeah, So I move back, and he puts the rubber ball down again, and boom, I smoke it. And once again, from 50 yards out, doesn't go through the uprights, but goes again to the back of the end zone.
Right.
He says to me, Kumba, come here. So I make my way over, and he says, Italian. I go, yeah. Play soccer? Yeah. He goes, how many years you been playing football? How many years you been kicking? And I said, those were my first 2 kicks. He just looks at the assistant coach, and he says, do me a favor, come on my side. And the rest was history.
The rest is history. You're kicking field goals for the senior team.
Yeah.
Field goals. Wow. By the way, I just noticed your T-shirt. I'm gonna reference Rocky.
Yeah, man.
I'm a big Rocky fan here.
Man, I've had this for about 8 years. And I wore it for you. I don't know why I wore it today. God honest truth.
I'm actually this late. I'm teasing. I am the Quentin Tarantino of podcasters.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I'm teasing that I'm going to drop a Rocky reference later in this conversation, but I just stumbled by accident, flipping channels. I caught the last third of the second Creed movie.
Okay.
And it's Apollo Creed's son is fighting the Russian son from Rocky 4.
It's the only one I haven't seen out of the whole entire thing.
But it's the same movie. It's almost like I almost called him Arnold. Sylvester Stallone. He's got the blueprint, right? But that first Rocky movie, worthy of Best Picture, highly rewatchable. I love Rocky.
Yeah.
Okay, so slip the jab, Rock.
Right.
Love it.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna get back to Rocky later. Okay, so you are playing high school football.
Yeah.
Now, at what point did you think, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I could play pro?
It was in my my last year, actually my last 2 years, and I went out to Hamilton, and I got selected to go to where basically you just go and showcase your stuff to all the universities. So you're about to go to university, and then you got all the Canadian universities that are there, the U.S., the whole 9 yards. So I went there, and I can't tell you the amount of attention that I was getting, especially from the U.S. schools. Right. In my last year, I went and did the exact same thing, and now they're sending you all the letters of intent, right? So I got every Canadian. I can honestly say this to you, and I may or may not have kept them. I don't know. But I had every possible Canadian university send me a letter of intention to go to the school. And also, I think it was 8 or 9 of the top University of Miami, Penn State, Notre Dame,
These are NCAA
Nebraska.
schools.
Yeah.
They're going to give you a scholarship?
Absolutely. Full ride.
That's amazing.
A couple of the schools wanted me to also play soccer. But, in all honesty, Mike, I mean, I didn't do very well in school. I mean, I was like a 65
Well, you only read one
guy.
book. That's why, Dan.
Yeah, you know what, right?
I can tell you why you didn't. No, honestly, I don't know how you get through school. You must have been like the biggest fan of Cole's Notes.
Yes.
Because you're assigned books to read. Fifth Business or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, and then you need to write an essay on it.
Yep.
And like, did you just fake it?
I took zeros, and I don't know if it's if you want to go here with this, but I'll just
Sure,
say this.
I want to go everywhere.
I was bullied in grade 4 by my elementary school teacher.
Oh my God.
Make a long story short, again, we were doing. It was my very first speech ever, and you know how you get those little cue cards that you're allowed to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Index
so
cards.
we were grade 4, grade 5 split.
Yeah.
And she picked me first to go up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I didn't do it. I forgot.
You didn't write a speech.
I didn't write a speech.
Okay.
So I thought I'd go up there and I'd fake it. And it was a 2-minute speech. So I went up there and I picked, I think it was Paolo Rossi in 1986, whatever it was, World Cup. Right. And I picked him as my guy to talk about.
Sure.
I got about 20, 30 seconds into it. And I literally stopped. I didn't know what else to say.
Right.
So she says to me, do it again. So I take a deep breath and I start all over and I do it again. 1986, Paolo Rossi is my favorite. I freeze again.
Yeah.
Do it again. By the third time, everybody in the class, both sides, started laughing. At that point, I was scared. I was scared to death. I was
right.
The fourth time I go up and I do it, and man, that's when I broke down, because she looks at me and she goes, "Sit down. That's a 0."
Wow.
So I sit down. The next day comes. Does she not? Now I was in grade 4.
Yeah.
So now they're doing grade 5s, and I was the first person that she calls to come back up. Well, at that point, if I would have known I was doing it, I probably would have crushed something. And even if I read it off the cue cards, at least I would have got a mark.
Right.
She did the exact same thing to me.
Wow.
I was up there 4 times.
She's humiliating you in front of your classmates.
So,
but this, Dan, you do realize, again, I'm not your psychiatrist.
Yeah, no.
I'm not your therapist, but this is why you didn't read a book. Like the way you were treated by this teacher in grade 4, now it makes sense.
Absolutely.
It must have been devastating for your academic confidence.
Horrible, man. Horrible. Listen, when it was time for me to go write my SATs, and it's in the book,
yeah,
I made the decision that I couldn't do it. I was terrified. I was scared. I didn't want to be embarrassed. And that was ultimately, to go to the States, that was ultimately one of the things that killed me.
It's a prerequisite.
Right?
Yeah, it's all coming together now. So
right.
What did you do after high school?
So after high school, I decided to go to Niagara College. My dad basically said to me, he says, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do with your life. But I want you to be a productive part of society. And I want you to you're either going to school or you're going to get a job. So I made a decision to go to Niagara College. I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I just took business administration.
Okay.
I took that the first year, and it was okay. I did okay. So you have the choice. You can branch out. So for some reason or another, I decided to branch out the next year, and I went into accounting. Halfway through that, I made a decision. I'm like, man, this is not me. I can't be pushing. I mean, God bless the people who do it. It's not me.
Right.
So about halfway through, I guess you can just say I started training in the mezzanine at the school. I started training a lot, picking up my training for no reason other than I love to lift. My third year, I decided to take computer programming. That was a big mistake. that was, I was so illiterate with that, it wasn't even funny. I mean, even the word cursor, I was lost, right. and that's basically when, the big square computers were out, like no laptops or anything like that. Man.
I remember, well, you only got 4 years on me. I remember these days. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So needless to say, that went to the wayside.
Yeah.
And then law and security was my next choice. And that's going to probably lead into something. And I'm not sure if you want to go there with it, with the professor, Gino Arcaro, and all that stuff.
Go for it. Yeah, I want to go everywhere.
Okay.
Where are you going there?
So in between those couple years with not playing high school football anymore, I missed the game so much. So I stole that rubber football from my high school, and I stole the orange tee and the black tee, and I went over to the soccer field right down the road from my house in Thorold, and I'd go there. God honest truth, I would go there every day religiously, and if you've ever been on a football field, and I'm sure you have, 55 yards is quite a jaunt.
Yeah,
I would line up pretending I'm kicking the Grey Cup winning field goal, or the Super Bowl kick, whatever it was.
Pasaglia or whatever.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And I'd boom that ball. I kick it. I run down 55 yards, run back, kick it. And I would do that for hours on end every day for no reason. Like, there was nowhere for me to go play. I just loved the art of watching the ball go through the uprights, which in this sense, it was just going over the top of a soccer net.
Right.
So I ran into Gino Arcaro in my fourth year. And Gino looked at me and he says, "Hey, man, you're Dan Giancola, aren't you? You played a DM." And I said, "Yes, sir, I did." He said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, coach," I says, "I didn't have the marks, so I got nowhere to go."
Right.
He looks at me and he says to me, "What if I told you that I can get you a tryout, a workout right now with the Toronto Argonauts," which would have been the free agent camp, "and possibly get you on the semi-pro team in Toronto, the Toronto Athletics?" I looked at him in disbelief. I really thought, honest to God, are we okay to swear?
You can swear.
I honest to God, I thought he was full of shit. I really
remember I said bullshit earlier.
That's true. But it's your show. But it
like the fact that he disclosed to you that there is a path for you without an education,
mind-boggling,
to still kick field goals and get paid to do it.
Yeah.
So, okay, but the semi-pro team, you don't get paid for that, right?
No, man, it's a glorified name. That's all it is.
Okay.
It's where guys pay to play. They tape their number on their jerseys. Some guys have never even played the game before. Some guys are former college players. Some of them are guys that played in high school and just still want to play, right?
Right.
You pay for your gas. You're not getting on any buses or anything fancy like that. And some of the fields, like when I was playing in Buffalo, we were playing in the hood. And when I say to you playing in the hood, there was games where practices where gunshots were going off. And, some of the guys that are from there were, like they look around and meanwhile, like you're duck and run, you're heading for shelter, but it's just the way it was. Right.
But you did that for how many years did you play the semi-pro?
So I started in 1990, started chasing my dream in 1990.
Okay.
I started playing semi-pro 1993. And I played 93 through 98.
Wow. Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about these tryouts that you were told you could have. Like, I don't know what the number is, 131 or something
131
like that?
free agent games,
So just to make sure that people don't gloss over this one.
Right.
You had 131 free agent tryouts, and this is of teams in Canada and the United States, right?
Yes.
So, like, are you trying out for any NFL teams?
I went. The NFL. The NFL workouts were a little bit more difficult. I went for one in Buffalo. Actually, quite a few years. I went to Buffalo. I went to New York, the Jets, and I went to Philadelphia.
Okay.
Nothing came of those. I mean, it was just one of those things.
But still, they're in the 131. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then when you like CFL, obviously,
ton of
especially because you're domestic, right?
Yeah, ton of them.
So every team, and I say that like there's lots of teams. Okay, I don't know, 8 or 9. I lost track, but every team would give you a tryout to see if you could be their kicker.
There was some cases where like teams are holding like 3, like so. For example, the Argos, they had one in Florida. They had 2 in Florida, and then they had the one in Mississauga, and one over here, literally right down the road from here, on Lakeshore.
Okay.
So,
like in Sam Smith Park, maybe, or Colonel Sam Smith Park. I see rugby games happen there all the time.
Yeah, it's a rugby. It used to be a rugby field, and I'm yet still to find this field again.
I'll show you it after this recording.
Yeah.
I know it well. They had a transatlantic rugby tournament either last week or the week before.
Right.
And there were teams from Ireland and England and
Right.
Colombia and, of course, America and then
Right.
the Canadian team having a big tournament there, and it was televised and everything. But okay, I digress. That's for the rugby cast, which I'll record another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dan,
Yes.
I want to get us to 1999,
Okay.
but I mentioned Rocky earlier because
Right.
I close my eyes and I think about Rocky. Although now hearing your story, it almost sounds more like Rudy. But Rudy, Rocky, you're a hybrid, man.
Right.
But am I right? At the age of 29,
Yes.
this is 1999, you're working as a grocery clerk, which,
Right.
by the way, I was a grocery clerk, but I
Yeah.
worked in the grocery department.
Yeah.
It sounds like you might have been working in the meat department.
I did all of them, honestly.
Okay,
I
you
really
did.
did.
Well,
I
look,
started in the meat department.
Which grocery stores?
Camisos. All of them were at Camisos.
Okay. I was a Food City man.
Oh, no way. Food
Yeah.
City. All right. Yeah,
Back
yeah.
when Oshawa Foods owned
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And then we did convert it to a Price Chopper
Right.
at some point. But this is the late great, although still open. I biked over to the Galleria Mall to just pay my respect.
Yeah.
Still open. So I don't know. They're building this massive condo tower, which is what you do now, I guess.
Yeah.
But they haven't actually closed the part I worked at. I think it's a Freshco now. I'm not sure. I digress. You're handling like frozen meat carcasses. Like
Yeah.
I'm picturing Rocky. Remember he was working
Yeah.
out, pounding the meat? That's you at the age of 29 in 1999.
It was exactly that, man. It was
Wow.
exactly that. I would take the meat off the trucks, put them on the hooks, and then from there, I'd unload them to for the butchers. And then, of course, I was there late at night, and I was the guy who was cleaning up. So you're washing all the carcasses, you're washing all the machines, sanitizing everything.
Gonna fly now.
Right?
Sing it with me, Dan. Gonna fly now. Dun, 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 dun. Now I want to hear City Pulse News.
Right?
Okay. All right, so Dan, this is the moment. We're
Yeah.
pausing here because something exciting is about to happen in this story. Love your story, by the way, but there's ups and downs, and we got more downs, but here's an up coming up. I am going to crack open a Great Lakes beer.
Oh, absolutely.
It's called Hop Pop.
Okay.
Yes, you got it in your hand right now, fresh from the fridge.
All right.
So non-alcoholic, just a heads up there, you know that, and mine is definitely alcoholic. So I'm just gonna crack it on the mic right in front.
Oh,
I'll do mine.
are we doing? Okay, you go.
All right, so cheers to you, Dan.
Cheers, brother. Thank you so much.
Enjoy your Great Lakes Brewery
Thank
Hop
you.
Pop. Your surname, I know it's Italian, so you know your Italian food. Am I right?
I do.
Okay. I'm sending you, this is a test. I want to test Palma Pasta out, okay? So Palma Pasta is in Mississauga and Oakville.
Okay.
The Petrucci family owns and operates this. There's 4 locations.
Okay.
I have it on good authority. Well, my stomach is one, my taste buds are another, but I know that this is the best Italian food that's not made by your nonna, okay? So I'm going to send you home with it's in my freezer, a large meat lasagna from Palma Pasta. You're going to cook this up one day. Tell me what you think.
We're going to post it up. Absolutely.
Tell me what
man.
you think of Palma Pasta. I want to know a true Italian
Absolutely.
Dan Giancola. Am I saying that right?
Okay, so if you're going to go the Italian way, you're going to go, you're going to go Italian.
I'm going to try.
Giancola.
Giancola.
So it's almost like John. Giancola.
You're right. I've been kind of like anglicizing that
Right?
thing. Okay,
But
Giancola.
The way we've always been brought up is Giancola, Giancola. There's no right and wrong, man.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's what I need. I need more where there's no right and wrong. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise I'll just go wrong. Okay,
Nah, you're good.
You're going to take your lasagna home. Let me know what you think.
Thank you.
And this is kind of timely. So I said it in the intro. That's why I ran out of song in the intro. Because today it's Friday, August 23rd. Tomorrow, Saturday night, the 24th of August, 2024, is the first playoff game of the season. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be playing at Christie Pitts. I think it's the first. I say that, but I think it's the first. But bottom line is tomorrow night, I'm taking my 2 little kids to Christie Pitts because they're going to have a great deal on the Maple Leaf beer, $3.50. The hot dogs are going to be $3. They're going to have prizes, giveaways. I'm going to make sure my kids get to run the bases. It's going to be amazing, and there's no ticket required, okay? This is a free event. Get your butts to Christie Pitts tomorrow for Toronto Maple Leafs baseball. And to get you excited, Dan, there's the history of Toronto Maple Leafs baseball all in that book I'm going to send you home with.
Oh, thank you.
So you gave me a book, and I've given you a book.
That's amazing, man. Thank you so much, bro.
So go Leafs go, and at least we have some playoff baseball in this city. I will also let you know that recyclemyelectronics.ca, Dan, it's where you go if you have old electronics, old cables, old devices you need to get rid of. You don't throw it in the garbage because those chemicals end up in our landfill. go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your postal code, and they'll be like, hey, Dan, drop it off here, and it will be properly recycled. So that's a pro tip for you.
That's amazing. Thank you.
One last gift before we get to this exciting moment in 1999. Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community since 1921. This is a measuring tape from them. You can measure your biceps.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
How big are those pythons,
Hey,
Dan?
all right, thank you.
I saw you at the door, and I'm like, oh, I can't mess with this guy. He'll beat me up.
No, you do whatever you. No, I'm good, man. You're
I
good.
can mess with you? Okay, let's see.
Absolutely.
Let's see how it goes with my pipe cleaner arms here. Okay, so we've set the table nicely here. In 1999, at the age of 29, when you're
Right.
working at a grocery store, you achieve your dream. You sign a contract with the Toronto Argonauts. So is it just finally, after, 131 free agent tryouts, somebody at the Argos said, let's give him a shot? How did this happen?
It was because of 1998. A lot of people don't know I signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So that is where, I'll be honest with you, that's where the story of Be That One was derived from.
Right.
Is actually that moment. When I signed in 1998 with Saskatchewan,
Right.
that's when everything blew up for me. Next thing you know, it was in the papers, it was on TV, it was on TSN. You know, this. I remember my first article. It said Dan Giancola heading for greener pastures, have leg will travel, and Bill Patras wrote that story. And I was on the plane. I was legitimately on a plane, and my wife at the time, my girlfriend, was in the airport. Waving by to me, and next thing you know, the stewardess goes, well, passenger Dan Giancola, please come to the front of the plane. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, I thought maybe somebody put something in my bag.
Right.
Something's not right. Next thing you know, I get there, get to the front of the plane, and he says, do me a favor, please go to boarding. They'll have the information you need. Long story short, I get there, and one of the people at the door said, apparently I slipped in, but Dan Rambo for the Saskatchewan Roughriders had messaged me, and
Rambo.
Dan Rambo. Yes,
Just like
right. There you go.
Sylvester
Right. Look at
Stallone.
that. Look at how that works, right?
Well, it's all about Sly
That's
today.
right.
Okay. What a name. Okay.
And he apparently was trying to call me, and I had my phone on silent. So here I am on the plane, getting ready to rock and roll, getting ready to leave.
Right.
And he says that Paul McCallum is coming back from the World League, and they no longer need my services.
And you're on the plane. Oh, you're almost.
I'm on the plane,
You're on the
man. I'm
plane,
going
right.
to Saskatchewan.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm devastated. I walk over, and the plane starts pulling out, and I walk behind my wife, and my wife's, like just waving.
Yeah.
And I'm standing behind her, and I said, babe, she turns around with this look on her face of disbelief. What are you doing? Yeah. I said, let's just go home.
Oh.
And so what ended up happening was that led into 1999, and I was in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and the late John Gregory was the coach there. And so I did I did a ton of arena teams also over the years and all the free agent camps, Albany Firebirds and so on and so on and so on. And I was trying out for Kurt Warner's arena team.
Right.
And here you got another grocery clerk, but he at least went to university and did all that. I didn't, right?
He read more than one book.
Right, he read way more than one book, right?
It was the Bible.
Yeah, exactly what it was. And next thing I know, I'm over there, and I kicked a bunch of field goals. Coach looks at me and he says, hey, man, he says, listen, you're my guy. You're my guy. He says, do me a favor. Come on over here. Let's do a couple kickoffs.
Yeah.
My very first kickoff, I've already made the team. My leg goes through the ball, and all I felt was tear,
Oh my God.
tear, 4 spots. My leg was dangling.
What?
Yeah. And immediately their therapist came over. They iced me up. They told me the severity of it. And he said, Dan, if you can kind of piece yourself together by, I think the workout, again, I'm guessing now, I'm spitballing. I think it was probably around December. And the league was starting in March. So I had basically 2-3 months to piece my leg together. And next thing you know, I get back to the hotel, and my phone is ringing like crazy. My light is flashing on the phone.
Yeah.
I pick up the phone, and it says, you have 25 messages. My mom was trying to get a hold of me. Said that my agent was trying to get a hold of me, and don't sign anything.
Right.
So I wasn't too worried about it, honestly. Really didn't matter to me. I finally get on the phone. He said, "Hey, Danny, you're bleeding blue, buddy." I said, "What the hell are you talking about? Do you know I got hurt bad?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Well, you first." He goes, "Well, you're signing with the Argos." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, bro." So there's a part of me that's happy, but there's a part of me that's like, "Are you kidding me with this right now?"
Right.
I just tore my leg up. So anyway, fast forward to making it to preseason. I never kicked one football. I was in rehab every day to keep my leg pieced together. So I went about 2-3 months not touching a football. I went directly into training camp. And that's where 1999 started for me.
Okay. This story needs to be a movie. Are you working on this? So you got the book now. You just got to license the book to some filmmakers.
So
this is like Rudy meets Rocky.
I'm going to say something to you.
You got a movie coming out.
There's a couple of things that are happening.
Sly Stallone is playing you. Isn't he too old?
There's a couple of things that are happening. So I'm probably going to get in trouble, but
no one's listening.
Yeah, right.
Private. Did you think I was recording this, Dan?
Yeah.
I didn't know you wanted me to record it.
We're working on a documentary, and then from the documentary, we're going to be talking to a Hollywood producer. So they're comparing my story to Rudy and Vince Papale.
Not even sure I know that
Invincible.
Name. Okay. But the Rudy I know because I've seen that movie 100 freaking times.
Right,
and there's
too.
a lot of Rudy going on here.
Right.
So you're now, you're 29 years old.
29.
You've recovered from this leg injury.
Right.
And now you're going, you're going to training camp of the Toronto Argonauts.
Yes.
The Double Blue, the Argos. Can you give me, who are the stars of the 1999 team?
Oh, man. Well, one of the first people I met was Pinball. And for me, growing up, Pinball's the guy. You know, I idolized him on and off the field. He's one of those guys that you can honestly say, what a role model on and off the field. This is what a human being is supposed to be like. Paul Mazzotti,
yeah,
Mike O'Shea,
yeah,
Pre, Lundis Bryce was big. I mean, my God, I could just keep going on and on and on and on. Adrian Smith,
yeah.
Jim Ballard, the other one of the other quarterbacks. Jimmy Kemp was a great friend of mine. Jay Barker. You know, what an amazing bunch, man. They to me, my biggest role models in that situation in my first year, I can honestly say, was first and foremost was Prefontaine. He taught me how to be a pro. He really did. He was hands-on with me. There was a couple of times, he grabbed me by my jersey and pulled me out of the room and literally ripped me a new ass. I mean, yeah. And
tough love.
It was tough love, and they weren't.
But he did it privately, right?
Well, he did it privately, but he made it known, in front of everybody. So, if here's an example, we were in Calgary, and I kicked 5 field goals that game.
Wow!
And the furthest one I made that game was 54 yards. So I had a great game.
Yeah. And
they beat us by a late pass, a touchdown. I think it was. Actually, I'll be honest with you. I think we threw an interception, they returned it, and they won. So we got back to the locker room, and I was so pissed off because I played a good game, and all I wanted was for us to win. And I slammed my helmet down right in front of me. Literally grabs me by my shoulder pads and yanks me. He goes, "Let's go now." And so I'm like a kid, man. I'm following him like a kid, and he's grabbing me by my shoulder pads. He's dragging me.
Right.
We get out in the hallway, and he said, "Listen to me. You had a great game. Those guys just went to war for 4 quarters, and we lost a brutal game. Take this win, go talk to the media, tell them how good you did, tell them how great the team played, get on the plane, and go home and be a professional." And at the time, I really didn't think I did anything wrong because I was upset we lost. That was me.
Right.
But I think him understanding the role of a kicker, I think was more of, these guys went to war. They battled their asses off. They're in the trenches. And yes, all we do is go out there and kick a field goal. And trust me, I'm the last person to go and demean, the kicking position.
But can I ask, this is a silly question. The overlapping skill sets for your punter versus your field goal kicker, sometimes they're one and the same, right?
They're two different. They really are two different arts. They really truly are.
You couldn't be the punter.
I practiced to be the punter. I had the ability to be a punter. they were grooming. They were really, at the end of the day, they were grooming Pre for at some point to take over all three. And I like to believe that I helped him and pushed him those years so that, he was able to have like a 10-year career like he did and an outstanding kicker, right? So, and we're still great friends to this day, man. You're not going to find two kickers as close as we were.
Well, that's great to hear. Now let's shine a light on this season, 1999, when you're with the Toronto Argonauts, because you became a star, man. Like, you kicked 2 game-winning field goals in that first year, and am I right? So you nearly tied the CFL record for most points scored in a single season.
I just did a podcast last night. I think the guy's name was Ray Macaretta. I believe he played in Edmonton. I had no idea. I kicked 5 field goals that game. And so next thing you know, as soon as the game was over, I was sitting in the locker room, and Danny Webb came up to me, the equipment guy, and he says, "Hey, good game, bro. We won." He said, "Good game, bro." He says, "Man, you just fell just short." I had no clue what the hell he was talking about. He said, "Short of what?" And he said, "Of beating the scoring. You
most
needed
points in a season."
Yeah.
So you scored this, just to make sure we shine a light on this, the second most points in CFL history that season. That's your rookie year with the Argos.
Rookie year.
And you're 29-year-old rookie.
Well,
Actually, you know what? Okay, not just Rudy and Rocky. You know where else I'm going to throw in the pile there? The Natural. Okay? Because the Natural, right? This phenom, young guy, and then this wasteland of years before he suddenly shows up with this contract. But I love the Natural. It gets a little bit of hate online, I've noticed. I love the Natural. I love it when Roy Hobbs shows up as an older guy and he just plays. Now that's a bit you too. So this is why only the 1 year. Like, I want to understand, like, because I know that you're going to sign a contract with the Buffalo Bills next, but like, why didn't you get the 10-year career like Prefontaine got?
Some guys are what they call, and I learned this, they're called journeymen, right? And it's one of those things where, unfortunately, there's some guys that, play the game. They play the game for 6 years and they win 5 Grey Cups.
Right.
There's some guys who play 15 years and never even been to the playoffs, So for me, it was, I played my first year, had an outstanding year.
Yes.
And that the second year, that's when the new coaching and ownership came into play. J.I. Albright and John Heward. And I believe, who was the owner there?
Cinnamon or whatever? No. Schwartz, right.
And
Sherwood
Schwartz.
But not the guy from the Brady Bunch.
Not the guy from the Brady Bunch. No.
Well, I was confused at first.
Right. And he was such a nice man. He absolutely loved me. Schwartz called me on the phone, and J.I. called me on the phone. And J.I. basically read me the riot act. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to the NFL? You're going to be there for 5 minutes. Stay here. You could have a career here, yada, yada, yada. And, honestly, Mike, this is God honest truth.
Yeah.
And I was very honest in the book, and I've been very honest in any podcasts or TV shows that I've been on. Mm-hmm. I told everybody, I never wanted to go to the NFL. It was more peer pressure. The media was really hitting on me hard. They were, a lot of them saying, and a lot of guys, I'll be honest with you, a lot of guys who I played against, and a lot of guys that I even played with. And dude, you got to go, man. Like, are you kidding me? What a story. Like, you're a grocery clerk and then you come over here and you light it up. You got an opportunity to go to the NFL. And
right.
So finally I gave in. And I gave it a shot. And I went to Buffalo. And again, I don't know where you want to take it, so I don't want to go too much further.
You take me where you want to go. Let's go. Well, let's hold hands and go together.
We after that decision I made, obviously things went fantastic. They did. Like, I went to Buffalo, and the media was insane, and I mean insane. You couldn't go take a piss with. I think that was the only place that you can actually go where, like, there wouldn't be any cameras, at least with me. And I mean, and who was I really at the end of the day? Who was I? But for some reason, everybody wanted to know about the grocery clerk. Everybody wanted to know about, my story, and even the guys on the team. Marcellus Wiley was one of my boys, and such a great guy. And Flutie was amazing with me. And so anyway, I go to training camp, and we're not even a week into training camp. And Doug says to me, "Dude, you better go check your phone." And I'm like, what's up? He says, your phone's been going off all day, like legitimately all day. And I says, well, only my wife really's got the number. So I don't know why. To make a long story short, that's when my mom made a decision to leave my, oh, no way. Stop it.
There you go. Just everybody, I've shown Dan my Doug Flutie Argonaut bobblehead. Yeah, the head comes off. Okay, Dan, now what have you done?
Oh my God.
He's deheaded. And here we are in a very serious moment with your parents are breaking up here.
Ripped his head off.
It's okay. I'll fix that later. Don't worry. I'll fix it later. It's been coming off. It's not your fault. But now, this is some serious shit you're dealing. So even though, here's the thing. So people, you're 30 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
Your parents are separating.
Right.
There is a misconception out there that this won't affect you. You're 30 years old. You're not like a 10-year-old or whatever, but it does affect you.
Man, for me, I can only speak for me.
Of course.
We are in a very close family.
Right.
We grew up our whole life with our mom and our dad and our brothers and my great-grandparents. I was blessed to have them into their hundreds. My grandmother in the hundreds.
Into their hundreds.
In their hundreds. And
wow.
My great-grandparents.
How many hundred?
I think
200?
100. No. I think my great-grandfather was 101, and my great-grandmother I think was 99 or something like that.
Just yesterday, I booked my oldest guest ever. She's 101 years old.
Oh,
She's going to be in the basement. Peter Gross's mom. Do you know Peter Gross?
I know the name.
Peter Gross was on City TV forever, yes. And then he was on 680 News. Peter Gross's mom and Peter in the basement in September. She's 101 years old.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Okay,
but you're, so cool. You find out your parents are breaking up, basically.
My mom left.
Your mom left.
My dad came home one day from work, and all her stuff was gone.
But you're in...
I'm in training camp
with the Buffalo Bills, and you find out that your parents are basically divorcing.
Yeah. So my dad's brother, my uncle, my cousin, my wife, and I had not heard from my mom, and I had not heard from my dad. This was everybody just telling me. And so I'm sitting there and I cried. And when I say to you, I cried, I bawled for hours. I couldn't use an excuse. So I went to my meeting, my special teams meeting. And I don't even remember what the hell even happened. I was so distraught, and I left, went home, went back to the dorm and cried a little bit more. Then I called my wife and I said, how they doing? She goes, Dan, I'm sorry. I gave your uncle the number, and I guess he must have gave it to everybody. And so anyway, it messed me up, man. It messed me up. My mind was always on, what is my mom doing? Where is she? I heard my dad fell down the stairs. He was bawling. At that point, he was being diagnosed with Parkinson's at that point. So, now he's got Parkinson's, and my wife is pregnant. So it's just a shit show. It's just an absolute shit show. And, at the end of the day, man, people are like, well, you did good. You did good. You know what? Listen, Christie was the better kicker. He was booming the ball to the end zone. I was told very simply.
Another Canadian beat you out.
Right. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, he's the better man, and period. I mean, I was getting the ball down to the 5-yard line. Maybe if I would have pulled my head out of my ass for 5 minutes, maybe I would have gave myself an opportunity.
But you were cut before the first preseason game.
I was. And the main reason is because I was starting to come on strong. And Wade Phillips said to me, and he made it very clear to me, he said, I'm already dealing with a quarterback controversy. And at the time it was Rob Johnson and,
I remember well. Doug Flutie should have been starting that playoff game. The Memphis City, that's in 2000, I believe. But the Memphis City Miracle game should have been a Doug Flutie game. I had a Doug Flutie Bills jersey. I was watching that game with my buddy Mark Carey. I'm still upset about it.
That was 1999.
99. Okay, I think it's 2000. Maybe it's early 2000?
That's the reason why they signed me in 2000. Okay. Was because of Steve Christie, because they said it was a short field goal. Okay. So that was, and I didn't know this, and that was my issue at the end with my agent.
This turned me off of NFL football for decades. It really did turn me off of football, that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny how this is all coming together here.
Yeah.
You're working through some trauma here.
Right.
So am I, Dan.
Right.
We're doing this together.
Hey, I was too.
Okay. So you're cut. The Buffalo Bills cut you.
Yep.
The Argos still have your rights in the CFL, right? They trade you to BC?
So he held out right to the bitter end because I think he just wanted to prove a point.
Well, who's he?
J.I.
Okay.
On the very last day, Danny Webb, Jerry Townend, I think, came out. Jerry Townend or Danny Webb came out and said, "We need you to get off the field." I was like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah.
So they called me into the office, and J.I., I'm standing outside the door forever, and he finally says to me, "Come sit down." So I sit down, and I took my shoulder pads and put them on the chair beside me. And he goes on telling me all about the war days and this, that, and everything else. And then his last, he talked to me like 20 minutes. And then he says to me, "And by the way, we traded you. Get out of here." And I was like, okay. So I literally was in such shock. I literally stood up.
Yeah.
And I started walking out the door. So I walk out of the portable, realizing two things. One, where am I going? I don't even know where the hell I'm going. Two, I left my shoulder pads and my jersey in there.
Right.
So I go back to the door and I knock on the door and he's on the phone. He closes the door on me and I'm standing there with the door closed in my face. And I'm like, so he finally opens the door after 10 minutes. I'm continuing to stand there. And I said, "I just want to," he goes, "What do you want?" He goes, "You're traded." I said, "You never told me where." He said, "Oh, you're going to BC. We traded you for two guys that I think had a draft pick or something like that." And I'm like, okay. I said, I need my shoulder pads. He legitimately grabs my shoulder pads and chucks it out the door. Literally right past me, just chucks it out the door. He slams the door. I grab my stuff. I go back into the change room and Pre walked in right away. He came off the field. O'Shea came off the field and they consoled me. And
I mean, you're a human being. I hate hearing this treatment of like, this reminds me of your fourth grade teacher here.
Yeah.
It's this disrespect that you're a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really,
no compassion,
none. And, and the sad part is, I think to this day, that was all because just punishment because I didn't stay in Toronto.
Right. Because you tried to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
Which wasn't even your dream. You felt this pressure to it's like
God.
you were writing the movie in real time.
Yes.
And the movie needs you to kick a playoff winning field goal for the Buffalo Bills.
Yes. Right. Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, and I raced home and I called my wife and I said, you got to appreciate now she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to go to BC. And she says, "Honey, I can't go because I won't be able to fly and I can't leave my job."
Right.
So, it was a hard night that night. We cried the entire night and she took me to the airport. I got on the plane and I arrived in BC and I met Braley, the owner.
Yeah, he owned a couple of teams for a while, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He owned the Argos too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, he was a really nice man with me. He really was, honestly. And then I met a few of the guys. I met Drummond. I met Alfred Jackson. Donnie Blair, and then finally, after they did the big. It was actually kind of really cool though. Like you always see it, when you're doing your press conference and they're holding up your jersey, and so like legitimately, like I'm like that guy. Like I got this number 3 jersey, and I wanted number 4 because that was my number, and yada yada yada. But next thing you know, you're playing the next day,
right?
And I walk into the locker room, and there's Louis. And I'm like, oh my God, the legend. So I walk up to him and I said to him, I go, "Oh my God, it's such a pleasure to meet you, legend." He looks at me, he goes, "Coca-Cola, what's up, brother? Good to have you here." Right? So we had a great conversation, and God bless him the entire season, man. You want to talk about learning from the best? Guy was 50 years old, collecting a pension, and still playing 25 years with the same team.
Wow.
What a story. What a story.
Well, he can be the B plot. You're the A plot.
That guy there, man, just like I said, God bless him. That's what made my year in BC, honestly.
But how does it end for you in BC?
Well, they made a decision. Adam Rita had called me up, and at the time, I can't remember, Coach Brado took over for Coach Mons, and we were 7-11 going into the playoffs. And
it's amazing you can make the playoffs 7-11.
Right? It's great. It actually is crazy.
There's a few things about I root for the CFL, but there's a few Mickey Mouse things that you're sort of like, oh, you can make the playoffs 7-11, and then you mentioned Braley, and I'm like, oh, you can own 2 teams. Right. You can have 2 teams. When I grew up with 2 teams named the Rough Riders. Right. Like that one's still a mind blow to me. There's a few things like that, and this is a good moment for me to ask you a quick question before we get back, because I'm going to get awfully serious with you on a few issues in a moment here. But question did come in from Greg, who's a big CFL booster, big Argos fan. Absolutely. He wants to know, in your opinion, I know you're the field goal kicker, but should the Rouge be abolished? This is in the news from an Argo game last night that I can't say I watched, but I did catch a bit of the controversy because I saw FOTM Howard Berger made this grandiose statement after, I don't know what he said, 60 years of being a fan of the CFL and the Toronto Argos. He's attended his last Argos game because of, I think that was an officiating concern, but there was a Rouge that won this game. What do you think of the Rouge?
I was watching, before I came here, I was watching it on TikTok, and I followed the Argos there, and I saw Liam missed the field goal. You can see that he had the intention to pound it to make sure that there was no return. Right. I mean, the CFL is a special game. Mm-hmm. And do I agree with the end of the game and that's how the game ends? No. It's either he makes the field goal or he doesn't. That's just my opinion. In that situation, in a game-winning situation, I think that should be null and void. But outside of that, man, it really does make for some great football. You got guys back there, like your receivers with the good hands, because they got to try to jump up and they got to catch that ball. If you notice, I believe they had 2 receivers in the end zone last night, just in case they got a hand on it, so they can kick the ball out of the end zone. And I think that makes great. I personally,
so you're pro Rouge.
I totally am. But again, with that said, how the game ended on that missed field goal, and because it went through the end zone, no return, at 1 point, no, I don't. I think that's shitty.
Like, okay. So always a great debate. The Rouge, always find it very interesting. But I value your opinion on that. And Greg, there's your answer from Dan Giancola. Working on that, man. Working on that.
No, you did a good job. You did good. You did good.
Shout out to Anthony Petrucci at Palma Pasta. So let's get serious for a moment here. So does your career end when you're cut by the BC Lions? Is that it for you in professional football?
No. So after that, I got taken. So I went 2001. I got signed back in Toronto, and I went against Jacob Marini, but that's a whole other story about what happened there. And so I got cut, and Jacob Marini took over. Pinball was the coach. Pinball told me, hey, Clutch, if he falters, I'm not going to even hesitate to bring you back. I said, okay. So from there, I sat out for, I think, 4 or 5 weeks.
But that was not a great season, the 2001 Argos season.
No, it wasn't, because it was a mind, you know what? I mean, I don't want to say that word, but it screwed with your mind something fierce.
Right.
Because I outkicked him in training camp.
Right.
And
so is this political again? Maybe.
I think so. I really do. And like I said, it was, it's in the book. And like I said, I was as honest as I honestly could possibly be. I just felt, I really felt like I was cheated, and that I was the better kicker. But at the end of the day, there's no point in complaining about it. You go home, you train, and hopefully somebody else, picks you up and signs you. And it just ended up that Jacob had a bad few games in a row. He had a bad game in Calgary, and they called me back. And I come back, and I kicked the lights out.
Yeah,
I kicked the lights out, and they brought me back for the last part of the season. Didn't have the greatest season. I think I kicked 76% field goal, something like that, 72%. It wasn't a 1999 season, that's for sure.
Right. Well, that was one for the ages here. Okay, so you said it's in the book a couple of times, and Perry Lefko has written a few books, not just doing the 10% mop up at the very end of Be That One. I got to get the full title. Be That One. Why does it have to be someone else? Why not me? So that's your book. You wrote 90% of it. Then Perry came and dotted some I's and crossed some T's. You've literally written as many books as you've read. Do you realize that?
Yeah.
Do you think there's another human, serious question, on this planet of 8 billion people or whatever,
right,
is there another human who can say, in all honesty, they have read the same number of books they have written? I think you're the one in 8 billion.
I mean, I had no choice. Because Perry kept bringing it back. Like, it's such a process, man. I mean, you write the chapter, and then he's like, okay, listen, how does this sound? And then he goes in there and he tweaks it, and you're like, okay.
And he's easy to work with, right?
Oh,
when he's not listening to When in Rome, bawling his eyes out.
Absolutely. I wish he was here. I mean, because he
almost came by. He was going to come by.
Why didn't he come by?
I don't know. He just texted me, said he can't make it, but he was going to come by. I think he comes by for the Palma Pasta. But Kate, so because we're going to get serious, before we wrap up, there's some serious life stuff I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
But I feel like you've said it's in the book twice, and I need to play a supercut of Nick Kyprios on Toronto Mic'd. Nick Kyprios wrote a book, but I don't think it was a 90-10 split with Perry. I think I'll have Perry tell me what the real split was. But Perry Lefko helped Nick Kyprios with his book. You want to hear the supercut? And then we'll get back to your story. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Mike, you can get all of those stories and more in a book that I wrote that will come out in October. Simon & Schuster were kind enough to offer me a book deal. Yeah. And that's in the book too. And, it's well documented in my book coming up. Yeah. And that's in the book too. So it's a good read in my book coming up on how I was able to turn it around. It's a pretty good ride in my book. I think readers will enjoy it. Well, that's another one in my book, buddy. That's another one in my book.
So there you go. There's the supercut of Nick Kyprios. Man. Every time I'd ask him something interesting, you dated Joan London in New York? It's in the book. So now whenever a guest goes, in the book, it's my least favorite response. Now, you've been very good. You have not just said, hey, go read it, asshole. Go read it. It's in the fucking book. You've been telling me these great stories, but that's the Nick Kyprios supercut. It's in the book. So there you go.
Yeah, okay. Man, that's fantastic.
Now back to our regularly scheduled podcast.
Absolutely.
Which is, so after this Argo season, is that it for you in professional football?
So then from there, 2002, I got taken in the dispersal draft to Ottawa.
Right.
With the Renegades.
The Black. Oh, the Renegades. Renegades,
yeah.
Right. It's hard to keep track of all
Yeah, no, I know. And they took me second overall. So that season, that was another heartbreaker. That's when my father-in-law's dad passed away.
Wait. So your father-in-law's
dad. So my wife's grandfather passed away, and
gotcha.
he was my biggest fan.
Okay.
And wow, my father-in-law was really took it really hard. He was bawling. He said, and I just remember I went to Tillman and I said, listen, we have a death in the family. And he says, listen, Danny, Joe Pau was the head coach.
Yeah.
And I had him also in BC. And he said, listen, family comes first. Go home, go for a couple of days and go do whatever. So I go home, and next thing you know, I come back, I get to practice, and I get another brutal pull in my groin. I botched I think it was on a kickoff, and I couldn't kick. So for 3 days, I'm in treatment.
Right.
I get a phone call from my wife, and my wife says to me, honey, I'm so sorry. She says, Skylar, my daughter, is in the hospital. She's got a bad case of croup. Right. And you got to appreciate she was only one.
You could diagnose that illness over the phone, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it was really bad. And so she goes, I know you can't come home. I says, even if they say no, I'm coming home. I'll get my own plane. So I go straight up to Eric and I tell him the situation. And, God bless him. Once again, just a pure gentleman, just said to me, he said, Danny, go be with your family. Take care of your groin while you're there and take all the time you need. So I went there home for about 3 or 4 days. And, and next thing you know, there were letting me go because they're not letting me go because they can't release me because of a groin, because as a veteran, I had an injury.
Right.
We got, I don't know how many games into it. Next thing you know, I saw that I wasn't getting game checks anymore. And I was like, well, what's going on? Because I haven't been cleared yet. I've been getting rehab. And called Gil Scott, my agent, and he called me and he says, hey, it looks like they released you. He says, you may have to go to do an arbitration. So I went to arbitration, and long story short, I won. I won my season's pay, and never played 2002. 2003, I signed with the Montreal Alouettes, and in training camp, the Olympic doctor, can't remember his name, diagnosed me with a triple hernia, and figured that was probably the issue I had from way back, playing with arena football, trying out for John Gregory's Iowa Barnstormers.
Right.
So that's probably something that happened then.
Right.
So they took me to the Shouldice Clinic in Toronto. They flew me home, had surgery that day, and sat around at home. And next thing you know, my daughter and I get into this horrible car accident.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible car accident. A couple of days after that, my wife gets diagnosed with colon cancer.
Oh no.
So again, I don't want to scatter all, but I just want to kind of give you a feed of like what I was going through in those years.
Yeah.
So my dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2000.
Yeah. My
father-in-law got diagnosed with colon cancer, terminal, in 2002.
Right.
2003, my mother-in-law got diagnosed with with colon cancer and got preventative surgery to have her whole intestines removed. Then my wife got diagnosed with colon cancer, and my mom had a major seizure, and this all happened within 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So after the 2003 season, I got called back to Toronto after my wife got diagnosed with colon cancer and was getting surgery, and my daughter and I got in a massive car accident. And I showed up, and I played the game. After the game, we were in the field house the next day, and I called Pinner over, Mike Pinball. I said to him, listen, I said, I got to talk to you for a minute. And he says, okay. He says, Christina got diagnosed with cancer, colon cancer. Pinball is always a man, if you know him, he's always a man of quite a few words. And in that moment, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me and said, Clutch, what are you doing here? And I said, I talked to her, and she told me to, wow. You got to give me a second.
Yeah, take your time, buddy.
She told me to go and play, that there was nothing I could do for her, and she was good. So Pin had the whole team sign the football. And I presented, I remember walking in the hospital, trying to race there to get there because she had her surgery. And you don't want to talk about a Hollywood movie. I walk in there and I'm holding the ball behind my back, and she was looking really weak. And I had my daughter in my other hand. And I asked her how she was. She goes, did you do good? I say, I did real good. And I said, the team got you a ball. And I handed her the ball. And my somebody, I don't know who it was, my family grabbed my daughter and pulled her out of the room. And as I'm holding the ball, I hugged her. And I said I loved her. And she said she loved me, and the lights went out. And it was legitimately like a scene. And we just sat there and we just held each other. And then finally the nurse came in and said, Mr. Giancola, I'm sorry, visiting hours is over. So I walked out, and for the next couple of weeks, finishing the season was hard. Taking that drive to Toronto every day from Niagara Falls. was always so pleasurable in my first year with my convertible Mustang, and I'm playing freaking Enrique Iglesias, but that year I wasn't even listening to any music. It was tough.
You realize that football's just a game.
Yeah.
How's Christina doing now?
Christina, thank God, they found her cancer early. So she didn't need radiation. She didn't need chemotherapy. All they did was do the surgery. So they do what they call a resection, and they pulled out a certain part of the colon. My father-in-law passed away 10 years later. My dad passed away from Parkinson's in 2020. My mother-in-law just passed away in February.
I'm sorry for all your losses here, man. This is
so that's what makes the book so special. It's so I'm not trying to sell the book. I'm just saying that's what made the book so special. It's just very
well, it's an inspiring story. Like you chased your dreams. You never gave up hope. Like all these challenges. I mean, now you're a 29-year-old grocery clerk and you're still not giving up on your dream.
Yeah.
And look at what you accomplished. And it's such an inspiring story. I hope everybody checks it out. But I need to talk about your health for a moment.
Sure.
But since it was a heavy moment there, and I appreciate you being so comfortable that you could have that moment with me.
Always, man.
But you were talking about living with a hernia.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how earlier today in this conversation, we talked about Rocky IV.
Yes.
You with me? Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
James Brown performs Living in America before that fight. And Weird Al Yankovic's parody was called Living with a Hernia.
Oh, I never seen it. Are you kidding?
It's you can probably find the video on YouTube. But, it was a single from Weird Al Yankovic, Living with a Hernia.
Oh, that's great.
So it was like, my mind's doing this. I'm like, Mike, shut the fuck up because Dan's crying.
No, it's all good, man.
The lights are going out in a hospital. He's hugging his wife who's been diagnosed with cancer, just had surgery. Leave James Brown out of this. But then another thing, you mentioned the Shouldice Clinic. Is that how you say it?
Shouldice.
That's Shouldice. It's a tough word for me to say. Shouldice Clinic. There's a recent, this is way inside baseball, man, but there's a recent FOTM cast where we recap the previous quarter of Toronto Mic'd stuff, the TMU we call it, the Toronto Mic'd universe. Yeah. And Cam Gordon and Tyler Campbell come by and we talk about what happened the previous. And Tyler Campbell... No, it was Cam Gordon. Sorry, Tyler, for thinking it was you. Cam Gordon, last time we did an FOTM cast, goes into like all the famous people who have had hernia surgeries at the Shouldice Clinic. And I went at him for how boring it was. Like, who cares? But now you had your hernia. Is it surgery? What is it called when you a procedure of some sort?
Yeah, so I had what they call an inguinal. So it's like right in the groin. And they specialize. So in Toronto, Shouldice, John Travolta was actually in there when I was in there. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy.
Vincent Vega.
Yeah, right.
From Pulp Fiction.
Right. He was like literally one room over from me. And I hate to use this word because I still to this day I cannot stand it. But they had like a award part like for celebrities kind of thing so that people weren't bothered.
Like another tier or something.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And John Travolta, you don't have to be of the normies.
Yeah. So I overhear the doctor saying to him, okay, so you're going to be in bed for a couple days, yada, 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 yada. And then, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be here for a couple days. And next thing you know, he walks in and he says to me, okay, so you're going to go on the bike. When? A couple days? Now. I'm not lying to you.
But you didn't say, do you know who I am? Second most points in CFL.
I didn't want him to know who I was. Because that's what, ultimately, that's what got me, on the bike and,
right.
And ready to go, right? So we were right at it. They pulled 25 stitches out by night's day.
Wow.
And then the next day they pulled out the last 25 and the glue was kind of holding it together.
Wow.
And then it's supposed to be 6 weeks of healing. I was back on the field with the Argos in 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay, listen. So you're 54 years old as I look at you now.
Yes.
And you look to me like you're in great shape. Like you own a gym, right?
Yeah.
You do a lot of lifting.
Yeah.
You're in good shape here. But now this is going to be a shock to the listenership, okay?
Yeah.
I've had my own health scare, but I feel really good right now, and I had a really good appointment with my hematologist yesterday and was told basically to keep doing what I'm doing because I get blood clots, but they don't know why I get them. So now I pop this pill twice a day that thins my blood.
Yeah.
And that's just where we're at because I have to take these pills indefinitely. I got another year prescription yesterday.
Yeah.
So enough about my health problems. Am I right that at the age of 50, you suffered a near fatal heart attack?
I was in my fitness studio. It was during COVID, and that's when we were in lockdown.
Right.
And again, make a real long story short, people's mental health was going for a shit.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that were messaging me saying that they were becoming alcoholics, they were feeling suicidal. It just went on and on and on. So I just finally said to my wife, I said, well, the government's not going to have us back anytime soon. Because we're the first people they took out, the fitness industry, and we were the last ones we brought back with restrictions. So I was teaching online class. It was blowing up. I was getting 5,000 people on Facebook.
Wow.
Following. Well, they heard about this guy doing these free body weight training for all ages, yada, 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 yada. And next thing I know, I was 10 to 11, and all of a sudden I felt like I had the flu. And when I say to you the flu, it came on like a tsunami.
Like, did you feel nauseous?
I'm telling you.
Because sometimes I think I'm having a heart attack. I really am interested in your symptoms.
Are you in pain? Because when I was nauseous, I felt like I ate a whole bunch of raw shit that was spoiled.
But where did you feel the pain?
Nope. So the pain came.
Okay.
So I was legitimately sick. I felt like I had to throw up.
Right.
So at that point, I'm having a heart attack. I don't know that yet.
Right.
From there, I finished the class. I said, I got to finish this. I got 5,000 people on.
You're a trooper.
I go outside to get a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I felt like I had the dry heave. I run to the bathroom and I start dry heaving. And instantly, my back starts.
Okay.
So this pain started off about a 7. Now, I just finished telling you about the beer situation because of my gallbladder. So gallbladder's right here. So what happens with me is it squeezes, and then I get pain, sharp pain in my back, usually on the right side. This pain was central, right in the middle of my back.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. So I call my wife right away, and I said, hey, babe, she works in a doctor's office. I says, honey, I got it right in the center of my back. I got this horrible pain. I'm nauseous. I feel sick like a dog. I says, all right, do you feel okay? She goes, yeah, no. She goes, what did you eat last night? I don't remember what I ate. She goes, maybe food poisoning. I said, okay. When I talked to the media, when I talked to TSN and all them, I told them this next action that I did was the best and the worst thing.
Okay.
I grabbed a medicine ball and I went to lie my back down and I went to go roll it out because when I do that for my gallbladder, for some reason it subsides the pain. Mike, when I say this to you, bro, the pain shot through the center of my chest. You can't even, if you had a knife right now and you grabbed it and we pushed it right through, I can guarantee you 150%, I would take that. It was a 20 out of 10. So next thing I know, I get up, I get in my car, I shut down the studio. I start driving back home to Niagara Falls. I call my wife. I said, babe, I think I'm having a heart attack. I think.
And you're driving yourself.
I'm driving myself because I'm terrified.
You sound as dumb as I am.
Right. Well, absolutely. No, absolutely.
I once biked to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack.
Well,
but I think yours is dumber.
No, mine's way it gets better. So anyway, I turn around and pick up my phone, call my wife. She says, get to the hospital right now.
Smart.
So I spin around. I drive myself to St. Catherine's Hospital. As I'm making my way around the bend where the Meridian Center is, where the Ice Dogs play and all that, I had my hand underhanding the wheel like this.
Yeah.
And I was legitimately underneath the steering wheel. I couldn't see. I was in so much pain.
Right.
And I remember, honestly, God, remember praying to God, and I said to God, God, if this is my time, thank you. I've had a beautiful life. Please just take care of my wife and my daughter. By the grace of God, I got all green lights. I pull into a merge, and next thing you know, it took 25 minutes to be seen because it was during COVID, because you get 2 screenings. Then once you do that, then they sit you in station A, which apparently is a little more serious.
Urgent, yeah.
Next thing you know, nurse pulls me in and says, oh, I hear you're having a heart attack. I says, I think so. What's your pain at right now? I said, right now it's about a 7. It seems to be calming down a little bit. It's okay. She does my blood pressure. I'm 171 over 110. Now, really, at the end of the day, I had high blood pressure prior to that, and I get white coat syndrome. She goes, okay, let's run an ECG on you. She puts the ECG on me. Next thing you know, stone face. She grabs the paper off. She goes, okay, Mr. Giancola, I'll be right back. And that's when hell broke loose. 9 nurses came in, 3 doctors. Next thing I know, they asked me if my wife and my daughter were here. And I said, yes, they're in the parking lot. They drive a blue Escape. Now, you got to appreciate, this is during COVID.
Yeah.
The only people that were allowed in that place was you, the sick person.
Right.
2 seconds later, my wife and my daughter are standing beside me. Doctor says to me, Mr. Giancola, you're having what we call an acute heart attack.
Oh my God.
Time is of the essence. We need to get you to Hamilton.
Wow.
They get me in the ambulance. I say bye to my wife and my daughter. They were bawling. I'm looking up at the ceiling, and next thing you know, she tears my shirt off and she puts a patch on. Now, knowing what I've done for a living my whole life, I know exactly what she's doing. And I said to her, why are you putting me on this? She goes, Mr. Giancola, just in case. And that's when it hit me. I'm having a heart attack. They take me to the hospital. They rip all my clothes off. Literally, as we're flying through.
Yeah.
And we get in a room. Obviously bigger than this, but the big monitor. And they roll it up, and he said, Mr. Giancola, please don't talk. Time is of the essence. So I said, okay, no problem. I'm bawling. Right. I'm bawling. I got one of the nurses holding my hand. Another one's doing my blood pressure. And it was about 45 minutes, 55 minutes. Next thing I know, I hear, we got it. I'm thinking, you got what? What did you get? Then my cuff blows on my arm, the blood pressure cuff. I guess the cuff was too, there's pictures in Google and all that there. The nurse is holding up the cuff, and I kept the cuff. And that kind of broke the craziness. Next thing you know, he says, we're going in to get the other one. I'm like, what the hell? What are you getting? Anyway, long story short, first doctor, when they're done, says to me, Mr. Giancola, we saved your life by 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you had what we call the widowmaker. It was a complete blockage, 100% blockage.
Oh my God.
Of your main artery. And adjacent to that, the other one was 80% blocked.
Wow.
You should not have survived this. And I was just like, wow, man. Wow, the reality hit. And so from there, the recovery is way harder than the actual heart attack itself.
Is that right?
Your mental health goes for a shit. Here I am, Dan Giancola, professional athlete, his whole life, high level. I'm a personal trainer. I'm supposed to be the pillar of health. Right. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I went on Facebook that night, even against everybody's wish. I'm in the ICU. I'm all hooked up, and the pictures are in the book. You'll see them in there. And I'm in the ICU, and I'm going live, and we had like 1,000 people on in seconds. And I was crying, telling everybody how ashamed I was. And so for the next couple years, the recovery was tough. It was all mental. The physical part was hard when the doctors say to you that, you should have died and you can no longer lift heavy. You get read the riot act of all the things that you're not allowed to do. Finally, after 2 years, I bought in. I bought in. And I believe that the doctors, what they said to me, that my heart is strong and I feel good now. August 17th, 2022. I have a massive stroke in my studio at the end of the day. I collapsed on the floor. The only way to describe a stroke is, in my situation, I was nonverbal, which is brutal. I became tunnel vision. So see your ring?
Yeah.
So if you were to stare at that long enough and put your eyes in between there, sooner or later, everything around it, outside of it, is a blur. That's the way it was for me. It was tunnel vision.
But nonverbal, so you couldn't speak.
Couldn't speak. And at that point, I was starting to go paralyzed now on my right side of my body. My right arm turned in, my right leg turned in, and I was falling on my face. So to put in perspective, the size of the stroke I had, a grade 10, a level 10 stroke is permanent disability and permanent damage, something to do with your mental cognitive.
Cognitive, yeah, right.
So my buddy walks in. I'm going to come back to that. My buddy walks in.
Yeah.
And I always lock my my door at night. When I'm done the night, I clean up in there. And he walks in and he sees me laying on the floor. He grabs me by my face and he starts calling my name. And I could hear him, but I couldn't respond. He calls 911. 911 got there fairly quick. I think he said they got there within 5 minutes. They got me to Niagara Falls General, and they shot me. I'd be lying to you. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the shot. I think it's something PIA or something like that. But it's a heavy blood thinner. So from there, they said, we got to take at that point, my wife and my daughter were there, and they said, we got to take him for brain surgery. He's got to go back to Hamilton where I had my heart attack stuff done. On my way there, we were 5 minutes from, and the crazy part is I don't remember nothing. All of a sudden, my arm shot up. The picture in the book was my daughter who actually caught that. That's my arm that was paralyzed. Oh, sugar.
Don't worry.
That's my arm that was paralyzed. And yeah. So there you go, right? So there's all those lovely pictures. That's me in Niagara Falls recovering. There's the cuff. They had a parade for me. Oh yeah, it was so many crazy things. But so I get in there.
Yeah.
And the doctor says to me, "How are you, Dan?" I said, "I'm good." He said, "You're talking. I hear you're moving." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Do me a favor. Resist me." So puts his hand down on me, and my right arm, the one I had the stroke side on, was actually stronger than my left. Go imagine this. Then he does it to my leg. He puts me in the CAT scan. I get out of the CAT scan. He says, "Mr. Giancola, do you know why you're here?" I said, "No, doctor, I don't." He said, "You had a stroke, a massive stroke. And technically you should have died. You should have been brain dead within 90 minutes. Wow. So he goes over to my wife, and I heard him, and he said, I'll never forget it. "Mrs. Giancola, your husband had what we call best case scenario. He came in as a 17. He was going to get brain surgery, and he's leaving a 2.
How do they explain this? Does this sometimes
the blood thinner worked.
The blood thinner.
Blood thinner worked. So again,
big fan of blood thinners here,
right? So I'm on that the rest of my life also. So
yeah.
That's a lot of fun
we
stuff.
have that to bond us here.
Yes, we definitely do, bro. So that's so that's what ended up happening. And by the grace of God, man, I am sitting in front of you.
I'm processing all this, so you're only 54 now, but again, 54. Honestly, meeting you now, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
But at 50 years old, near fatal heart attack, and then 2 years later, which is only 2 years ago, if you're doing the math at home, this stroke that you're describing, dude, I'm glad you wrote a book, because this story needs to be shared, and it really does need to be a documentary. And if you have like a Toronto or a GTA premiere of this documentary, I better get a ticket. I better be invited.
Well, it's like I said, from what they're saying right now, The documentary is starting in November. It's going to take up to a year. And then they talked about PBS, CBC, TSN, and Netflix. And then we're hopefully we'll be in discussion with, I haven't personally met him yet, but the gentleman who is working on me with who is, I guess, the director of the documentary, is the script writer of this Hollywood producer. So we're pretty sure that this is the way it's going to go. So, but
what a story.
Thank you.
The book is called Be That One. Why does it have to be someone else? Why not me? Dan, I got to say, I'm so glad that you made the trek all the way from Niagara Falls.
Thank you.
And I loved this chat. And geez, don't beat me up with those big muscles of yours, okay, Rocky? Slip the jab, Rocky.
We're good, buddy. We're good.
So before I do the extra, was there anything else that you wanted to share with everybody, but maybe I didn't prompt for it, or I don't want you to be driving home and saying, "Oh shit."
You know what, honestly, Mike, I wanted to really tell you my Be That One story, but it would probably be about 5 minutes, and I don't want to.
Well, you know what? I'll bring this down. Listen, because this is a long drive you made, and this is a fantastic 90 minutes we've captured here. But I'll bring this all the way down, buddy. Do the 5 minutes.
You want me?
Be That One, because that's the name of the book. Be That One.
Yeah.
Give me that story.
Okay, so we go back to Saskatchewan, where I was sent home, and I go back with I go back to semi-pro, and the guys all give me a cold shoulder.
This is 98.
In 1998, yes.
Yeah.
And I go back to Buffalo with my semi-pro team. They wished me well. They saw me off. They thought it was the greatest thing. Oh my God, one of ours is going. Next thing you know, a couple of days later, I'm showing up at practice.
Right, you're not in Regina. Right. You're in the beautiful Queen City there, Buffalo.
Exactly, right? Over on the harbor front.
Although Regina means queen. Did you know this?
Yes, I did. Yeah, got that. So, I get there, and I get the cold treatment from all the guys. So I'm dejected from there. I drive home. I get home, and my dad was on the phone. And my dad, as soon as he heard the door open, he knew it was me, and he was talking to my cousin on the phone. He changed it to speaking Italian, because we didn't grow up speaking Italian, but we understood it because my grandmother used to always speak Italian to us. And I overheard him say, he's 29 years old. He's got to grow up. He's got to get rid of this dream. He's really starting to embarrass me, especially at work, because I work with his girlfriend's father, and it's starting to really embarrass me. And that killed me, man. That killed me. It's one thing to hear your friends say it and abandon you, but when you hear your father say it, and with that said, though, I completely understood, because he wanted the best for me. And I think at some point at 29 years old, and you're not giving up this dream, there's worry there. I went back to Niagara College the next day. I went upstairs and I went into the mezzanine where the gym is. And I ended up working out 5.5 hours that day. By the time I was done, it was dark out. I walked down the steps to go take a quick shower, and I noticed that I think the guy's name was Phil Rylander, and he was the athletic coordinator. And he was putting a poster up. And for some reason, him putting up this poster really just gravitated to me. So when I came out from taking the shower, I walked around and I looked on the board, and it says, 1 in 100,000 student athletes will ever play a professional sport. So stay in school. Now, when I go do my motivational speaking, and I've been traveling a lot lately doing my motivational speaking, one of the things I tell kids, it's a long shot, but like me, you can do it. Study and stay in school. But this poster was shooting me the odds. 1 in 100,000 student athlete. I'm not even a student athlete. Right. So 131 free agent camps, 131 times no. Oh my God. Is it ever going to happen? I grab the poster, I rip it off a wall, I put it in my gym bag, and I jet. I go home. I go upstairs in my bedroom, and there's a poster that I had at the end of my bed that my girlfriend, my wife, bought me, entitled Determination. And it's not whether you get knocked down, but rather if you get back up again. And every time those 131 times, I would sit there and I'd look at that thing, I read it, and I'd say to myself, it's okay to feel the way I do today, but tomorrow's a new day. But I wasn't feeling like that anymore. The poster did me in. I grabbed the poster, I put it up right beside that poster. And I read it again. 1 in 100,000 student athletes will ever play a professional sport, so stay in school. And then it came over me, and I thought to myself, why does it always have to be someone else? Why not me? I walked over to the desk on the side where I did my homework in my bedroom. I grabbed the Sharpie. I stood right in front of the 2 posters. And I thought to myself, why does it always have to be someone else? Why not me? I grabbed the marker and I put a big X through 1 in 100,000 and I wrote, be that one. Wow. And those were the 3 of the most powerful words I've ever spoke. That is what has pushed me through my heart attack, my stroke, my loss of my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my dad. It has been my, motto?
Sure. Your mantra?
Mantra, thank you, of life for me. And that, I told Perry straight up. I said, bro, this is one thing. You can say whatever you want in the book, and you can change whatever you want. But I'm telling you right now, be that one. Why does it always have to be someone else? Why not me? That's it.
You're inspiring the fuck out of me, Dan. Honestly, I'm going to run through a wall right now.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's good.
I'm going to let the Argos know I can kick a Rouge.
Right?
Give me a chance. Give me a chance. Honestly, thanks so much. I hope it was worth the drive. You are leaving with the lasagna.
You know what?
Even though you beheaded Doug Flutie here. But, I heard he's become quite the trumper, so maybe it's okay.
Just to be here with you, bro, and do this, it means a lot. I've creeped you on all your stuff, and you do amazing, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me.
I'm honored you came, and I really enjoyed the conversation. It's riveting, and I'm glad you're speaking to people to inspire them because you should be. You've got a great story, and I hope one day it's a great movie.
Me too, man.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,540th show. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm all over the place at Toronto Mike. Go to torontomike.com. Dan, where's the best place to follow you on your ongoing journey?
Oh, man, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I can shoot you all that information. I at the top of the head, I don't even know. I'm going to find you because I'm going to, this is live to tape, so I'm going to drop it way before you get home. Okay.
And I'll just tag you everywhere, and people can find you because Dan Giancola. I'm working on it.
You got it.
Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. I thoroughly enjoyed my Burst IPA. Palma Pasta. You've got a lasagna coming to you. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. The Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. I can't wait to see some playoff action at Christie Pitts tomorrow night. I'll be at Christie Pitts. Not recording, by the way. Just there as a fan. So come by and I'll drop some fun facts and mind blows on you, and you can be Jane Siberry or not. You be you. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community since 1921. See you all next week. You know what? I don't even know who my next... Oh, yeah. I have the official Toronto historian, Jeremy Hopkin, coming by on Monday because he's going to talk about 10 famous movies or famous films or television shows that were filmed in Toronto, and we're going to talk about the filming locations. More than just Short Circuit 2. It's going to be awesome. Shout out to Police Academy. See you all then.
Well, I've been told that there's a soccer born every day, but I wonder who